Good morning. If we could all stand, and we will have the invocation and then the pledge, and the invocation is being led by Pastor Bill Pearson.
Thank you.
Pastor Pearson.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for allowing us to be here this morning and look for ways that we can improve our county. Lord, I pray your blessings on this meeting and let the wisdom come out, that it will be serving all people who live in this county for the better and making our county even better than it is right now. So bless your people. Let this wisdom just come forward. And I thank you, Lord, for your blessings over every person in this room today. Lord, I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a 9 o'clock time certain, but first, Margaret, I think, are you the one reading changes on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item number 10, Calcutta Marine, which is a quasi-judicial item. The applicant has requested to continue this until there's a full board present, and there's also a public comment letter attached to the memo, and they are asking to continue to the August 2nd meeting at 9 o'clock. Item number 13 is our time certain for Plan Amendment 1708, Ordinance 1804, which is the county-initiated text amendment and plan amendment process improvements. It is a legislative matter, and there's additional comments attached, public comments. And item 14 is the time certain for the updated building fee schedule, and there's a revised motion and strike-through underline format. And those are the changes to the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. All right, whoever is presenting number 14 or telling us, or if you would come on up and we'll get started, please.
Good morning. I'm Tammy Boggs. I'm the senior fiscal manager for the building department. And what we're presenting now is we were instructed by the county administrator's office to do a 30% fee reduction for the building fees. So you'll see in the packet that we did the current fees and what the new fees will be. So does anybody have any questions?
Commissioner Benak.
Yes, ma'am.
My understanding is the reason for this is because there has been a surplus built up in the building fees over some time now, and I don't know the time frame. There's been some discussion about what some of the opportunities are for that surplus. I talked to the county administrator briefly about possibly delaying this until our next meeting. I talked to him late yesterday about that, possibly delaying this until our next meeting so that we could talk about the surplus and how it would be drawn down, some of those factors. And he seemed to think that was not a big deal if we delay that until the next meeting. So that's what I would like to request that we do.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to just defer this to till our next meeting.
The 12th?
No.
Oh, you're talking
No.
a planning commission meeting?
Excuse me?
What meeting are you talking about?
It would be in July, I believe.
July? Okay.
Yeah, it'd be in the end of July.
Sarah, do you have a date?
Yeah, well, just for the record, the absolute next meeting is June 12th.
No, not
And the
that
meeting after that is July 24th.
Yeah, July 24th. Just to give time to look at what the amount of the surplus is. I just haven't been briefed on it, and I know there's some questions about what that surplus could possibly be utilized for. If it is only to draw down the fees, if that's the intent, or if there's some other uses that might, that we might have needs for it. So
We have a motion by Commissioner Benak to delay this to July 24th. Do you have some comments?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yes, the county attorney's office has no legal objection to continue it, but when we do the motion, we'll have to refer to each of these resolution numbers.
Okay.
And take citizen comment before we vote on it.
Okay, let's go ahead and take citizen comment, and then we'll read it into the record. And anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Sarah, if you'll read how we need to have the motion and as long as Commissioner Benak
Okay,
and
well, we
Commissioner
have-
Whitmore agree.
3 motions for continuance. The first one is in the format, I move to continue consideration of resolution R 18098 to the regular board meeting of July 24th, 2018, 9:00 a.m., when soon thereafter this may be heard.
That would be my motion.
Okay.
All right, with the seconder? All right, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair, you know, I really don't have no problem with the continuation, but certainly was it a presentation supposed to take place? I'm not informed on all what's supposed to take place on this item. The 30%, you know, I was briefed on it, but I didn't know all the details behind what we were doing, and certainly if there's a presentation, I would like to hear the presentation. And also, Madam Chair, if we're, you know, continuing it, that's fine. In the meantime, what are we going to do as individual commissioner? Meet with the county administrator, get more information, the county attorney's office? I need to know what the direction is going to be so we don't get confused again, and all of a sudden we don't know what we did.
All right, Commissioner Benak.
I want to clarify, this did not come from the county administrator to me. This came from some discussions that I had with folks about what this surplus was, what it could be used for, you know, what was our intent. And I think our intent is, yeah, we know we're collecting more money than we need with these fees, so we need to set them appropriately. But before we take that action, well, I think we need to talk about this surplus and what some of the possibilities are, so we understand that. I'm just trying to make all of this be together. You know, I hope there's nobody that was hoping to get a fee reduction.
I don't think there was a presentation. I think what was, you know, it
I'll be
was
glad
in your
for a
briefing, what
presentation.
she was presenting is she's already presented. So this gives you better time to get, this gives you time to get briefed between now and the 24th.
I understand that, but I'm just trying to clarify, you're not saying we're going to have a workshop or anything like that and coming back on the agenda. So what you're saying is that we individually get more information than we have today from the county administrator or from whoever it may be on what
Yeah,
we're doing.
Council.
There's a straight assumption right now that this will reduce that surplus that's on hand. I had a question myself, what could that surplus be used for? What could that money be used for? And there's some other ideas possibly. So
I'm with
I am
you
going to
on
ask
that.
the county administrator, I think we're going to do an RLS and ask about this surplus and ask what the possibilities are. That's all I know at this point.
Okay, I'm supportive of that, but for the public, when we saying moving, continue, I don't want nobody saying where you continue to lower 30% discount.
Yeah, I get it.
That's
I get
why
it.
I want clarification this meeting.
That's why I was trying to do it in the short amount of time possible.
Okay.
Because I understand that, you know, hey, if I was pulling a building permit tomorrow and I was counting on that 30% lower fee, I might not be terribly happy.
And the average citizen also, that's why I'm saying.
That's
what
what
we're
I'm talking
talking
about.
about.
No.
All right, Commissioner DeSabatino.
Talking about.
Yeah, while we're doing that research, could we get a general accounting of what the fees over the past 2 years cover, what it can be spent on, what it has been spent on, what is allowed to be spent on, and that
That
is
will
it.
probably have to come out of the attorney's office on some of
Okay.
that, on what it statutorily can be spent
Whoever
on.
gets
So
the
whoever
information.
needs to be doing that needs to have that ready to
Right,
brief
'cause-
us before the next meeting.
Thank you.
I agree.
And we have done RLSs for that before because the balance is so high, but, you know, we have planning, we have code enforcement, and we have the building side, which is the permitting, plans review, inspections. And the building money that we collect for permits can only be spent on the building side.
Right,
Sure.
we know.
So unfortunately, I can't throw money to Margaret and Rob over here because that's not allowed per the statute. So we've spent the money on the computers. We've utilized people going to national conferences, which we couldn't do back in the day. So with the way that the permits, they're just getting more and more. Like I said, we're up like 38% from 2013. So we have to keep lowering the fees to keep the balance from getting too high. It's my understanding that's a problem all over the state of Florida.
good
Just
problem
because
to have.
everything is booming right now. Sarasota has the same problem we do.
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
I appreciate what you're saying, and maybe an issue across the state of Florida, but certainly I want to know how we got to that situation here locally and make sure it doesn't happen again. So we need to make sure we have the proper information before we come out to the meeting, and that's why I'm putting this, our county attorney, and I had the conversation, Commissioner Benak, I understand what you're saying, I'm with you on that. I just want to have clarification that we have all of the information, how we got there, so we don't get there again, so there don't be any confusion, so we don't make the same mistake. That's the only thing. I need to have that before the next meeting, and certainly what you just said, what we can use the money for, but we can't.
Right.
You know, I need that in writing.
Okay.
You know.
Commissioner Benek?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, nobody's, you know, I hate to catch you so off guard, but, you know, sometimes these things come up at the last minute. So
No,
it's
that's
nothing
totally
that the
fine.
staff did in any way.
Nope.
I know you guys are doing your best, and, you know, the reality is, you know, people pull permits for all kinds of things. And we've had so much going on in this community, not only growth, but people doing redevelopment.
Right.
You know, trying to take advantage of this, you know, upmarket, and the fact that we have, you know, so many people that want to live here. So I think that it's kind of more of the amount of permits that have caused this situation, and
Exactly.
and trying to find good people to work in the industry, our plans reviewers. It's tough to find people. So is there a way? Are we balancing this properly, giving the best service that we can, and hiring the best people, and finding people with the right skills? So there's an opportunity here, I think. I don't know, because I haven't gotten a legal review of that, what the opportunities are. But I think we need to, as commissioners, look at it while we have a chance before the budget. I understand this is a budget issue. That's why I only want to go as far as July. But
Mr. Barnott, he's been very careful about the hiring, which I think he's told y'all in the past, because when he came on board as our director, the first thing he had to do was lay off staff, because that's where all of our costs were. So he's been very careful about bringing people on. We have had trouble hiring inspectors, especially inspectors and plans reviewers. The inspectors are being taken by the private companies. They're being taken as superintendents. And we did have a meeting with a developer probably within the last 6, 7, 8 months. And he simply said, well, just pay your people more. You know, you've got the money, just pay them more. And it's like, you can't really do that, because we have departments that don't make money, so it's not fair that we have the money. I mean, we can't just arbitrarily pay our people $10,000 more just because that's what the private market does, and that's just not the way the local government works. We did, because of Mr. Hunziker and Mr. Barnes and Mr. Barnott getting together, we were able to get our inspectors more money this past year, but it was attached to their licenses. And we were able to maintain some of our inspectors, but we did lose 7 or 8 to the private industry just like that, because they can pay up to $20,000 more.
Commissioner DeSabatino?
Yes, and also if you could include a list of items that, for the public, that is required to get a permit.
Okay.
And so, because the public doesn't always know, and you revise your list periodically, so it would be nice to have a list of what you need a permit for. And also, the money that you collect, is it allowed to pay for staff, inspectors, buildings, overhead, rent? And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
on?
On the building side.
They're allowed to.
Commissioner Smith.
And wait, and the satellite office that you have, I believe, are you still leasing it through FDOT?
I think we pay $1 a year for that. We've noticed that it's not being used by the planning side as much. We didn't have a lot of zoning questions and stuff, so we've got it stacked with permit techs and plans review and some flood people. After we had it open, it was probably 8 months. It just wasn't being utilized on the zoning and planning side.
You might want to have someone contact FDOT, because I heard that piece might be on a surplus list, so we might be able to acquire it for,
We need to do that, not, yeah.
right,
Well, someone does.
someone needs to do
Commissioner
that.
Smith?
Thank you.
Good to know.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I echo everything what Commissioner DeSabatino has just said, and this is why the more you talk, the more questions I have, and I know this is for another day.
Yeah, don't stop talking.
And this is why we need that list of what we can do and what we can't do, because I know that's not your protocol, because I've been saying from day one that employees come in and we keep losing them. And if the funds are there and could increase their pay in that department and keep them here instead of us training people and then they go elsewhere. If the money can be utilized for that, I don't know why we don't do it. I don't know why we're not signing a 5-year agreement with these individuals where they just can't get trained and leave. But now I'm hearing there's some money there, and we just, some kind of way, we the powers decided, well, we can't do that because private business do that, but public don't do that. Well, this is a business, you know. We have to make business decisions. So if it's hurting us and losing employees, and they kind of know we can't, they may know more than we know, come to think about it. And they said, well, I know they can do this with this money, and they decided not to do it, so I'm leaving. I would too.
Right.
Commissioner Whitmore, and then we're going to vote.
I think we've discussed this enough. I was going to actually call the question.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have to vote on calling the question. All those in favor of calling the question? Say
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Have a motion on the board made by Commissioner Benak, seconded by Commissioner Whitmore. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
But we need to take each resolution separately.
Yeah, Madam Chair, then we have another motion be in the form of, I move to continue consideration of Resolution R 18099
Someone move
to the
that.
regular board meeting of July 24th, 2018, 9:00 a.m., or soon thereafter as may be heard.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have, we don't have to open that for public. Have a motion made by Commissioner Benak, seconded by Commissioner Johnson.
I have a question, Madam Chair, on that. Are we going to have a full board, or we going to be back recess, I know, so we're fine with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't,
We don't know if we have
I
a
don't
full
know.
board or not, I mean.
we'll find
As of
out.
right now.
As of right now, yes, but I mean,
Well, there are people going to be leaving town. That's why I'm asking that question. I don't know
not
when they're
me.
coming
That's
back.
after break.
That's after break.
Yeah,
I
it's after
understand
break.
that. I don't know when they're coming back, though.
All right, I have a motion made by Commissioner Benak, seconded by Commissioner Johnson to continue this to July 24th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Anything else?
Okay, the final motion would be in the format, I move to continue consideration of Resolution R 18100 to the regular board meeting of July 24th, 2018, 9:00 a.m., as soon thereafter as may be heard.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Benak, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Did you have, can I have?
Okay.
No.
Just a little thing real quick is, the reason we had 3 resolutions is because the building fees are part of the building code, and the miscellaneous fees are not part of the building code, so that's why they had to be on a separate resolution. There's some flood fees, they had their own resolution also. Flood recently got put under the Florida Building Code, so next time around, we will be able to consolidate those resolutions. But the other thing was, the reason we tried to get it on this one is because we were instructed by the county administrator, but also, y'all have got a pretty big agenda Tuesday, and we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of leeway before July 1st, because we've never changed fees like this to this extent in Acela, so we wanted a little playtime and test before we did it into production. So going July 24th, probably won't do our fees until maybe September if it gets approved, just to give us a little leeway time.
Commissioner Whitmore.
When we do bring this, I'd like to have it time certain, and also, we all know government is not in the world to make money, so we've got to get this surplus down, and that, I think, is what I think your goal is, or to find out, to make sure we can do everything legal we can, and, you know, so I just want you to know, we can't have these, I heard Sarasota has a lot more than we do, and
That's what
other
I've heard
counties.
also,
It's
yes.
like, and that's not fair to the people that were buying the permits, so, or getting the permits. So I think we'll be able to have a legal opinions and see if there's something that we can do, and then hopefully other counties will follow our lead.
Commissioner Benak.
Okay, well, the 3 resolutions and motions didn't come up until this agenda update, so I want to make sure we did the right thing. So are you saying those other 2 have nothing to do with the surplus?
No, they do have to do with the surplus, because the floodplain side is on the building side. That's building money, and the miscellaneous is part of the stuff that we do for actual permits. So that's also building money. Also, it's kind of a sticky wicket between the 107 and the 147 money, keeping them separate and what can be spent on what. But having the excess reserves have given us a chance to do the Acela project, and we were able to get probably 6 or 7 temps from a IT company to help us with that. We would not have been able to have the success that we had unless we had, somewhat of a larger surplus to get that done. So, I mean, it's been nice, but yes, it has gotten large just because of the volume. We just keep growing and growing and growing, and we're on track to have more permits again this year.
And let me be clear, I mean, part of the reason I did this is because you have limitations on this surplus, what you can have and how long you can keep it. I mean, there are laws that are applicable here, and that's what I'm trying to get a handle on before I make a decision, so that when we make a decision, we do it in the best interests of protecting the county against any possible future lawsuits, and that we, also look at this resource and make sure, like you said, that we have adequate surplus to do the things we need. So it's a balancing act.
Right.
So, thank you.
Commissioner DeSabatino?
Like you said, you keep talking and we keep asking more questions. And this is an attorney directed to the county attorney's office when they're doing the RLS. I'm also concerned about any future litigation. Someone could initiate a suit against us for reimbursement for back fees because we had so much in reserve. So we want to find out, the legal ramifications of that. I'm leaving it at that.
That's why we need to get a handle on all this.
Yeah. Commissioner Smith?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I have a question to the legal counsel, So are we going to do it? It takes a vote by the Board of County Commission to lower it to about 30%. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, there are statutory,
Attorney's over there now.
there are
I see. I'm
statutory parameters, but we're not prepared right now to get into the details today because that one's being continued. But the county
Well-
attorney's office is well aware of the issues in the statute.
Well, my issue is the fact that, okay, no matter what, we're going to July the 24th, so you're saying that we still continue to accept the same amount of money and still continue to increase this here without us knowing that it should be a certain fee and not the fee that we collect, and that's what I'm getting confused with. So now we on the record you can't do nothing to September, July the 24th is the next meeting. So those that are paying now for permits, so we're going to continue to charge them, even though we know now we may need to adjust some. I'm for the vote. I'm for that we may adjust some in the future right now, so we don't continue to do what we're doing when we don't say, okay, don't need to do it like that, but we're going to do it like that for another 90 days till we get everything voted on. So that's what I'm trying to clarify. Is that something the county administrator can adjust right now, or do we need? I just need to know.
The board has a legislative discretion to continue the 3 resolutions to July 24th without incurring any legal liability we might have incurred. We already incurred it. It's done. So, of course, we would have legal arguments against any liability at all. But I'm just saying right now, we're not incurring additional liability by exercising legislative discretion to continue the matter for a month and a half. And I think we can't get any more details right now because we've continued the matter. Discussion's closed, staff can leave the podium, and questions should cease.
Okay. Commissioner DeSabatino, then we're going to cease.
Regarding what Commissioner Smith just said, anyone who's planning on pulling permits now through July, they might elect to defer filing their permits until after this is resolved.
That's their choice.
That's their choice.
All right. I thought you did a great job. John, I think John going to vacation, leaving you.
I know, right?
I know. He should have to buy you a box of chocolates or something when he gets back. But all right. Anyone from the public wish to speak on a future agenda item? See no one come forward, we will close public comment on future agenda items. And we have 2 consent items.
Motion to approve consent items 5 and 6.
Second. Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak on either item 5 or 6? See no one come forward, we'll close items 5 and 6. We have a motion on the board made by Commissioner DeSabatino, seconded by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes. All right, moving on to number 7.
Number 7 is Land Development Code Text Amendment 1804, Ordinance Number 1822, which is a county-initiated Land Development Code Text Amendment, also known as the dog dining legislation. Amendment to the Land Development Code to establish a local exemption procedure from state law to allow dogs in outdoor areas of public food service establishments during operating hours. Amending Chapter 2, Section 200 definitions. Amending Chapter 4, Section 401.2, Schedule of Uses, Table 4-1, Uses in Agriculture and Residential Districts, Table 4-2, Uses in Non-Residential Districts, and Section 402.5, Schedule of Uses for Planned Development Districts. Table 4-9, Schedule of Uses for PD Districts. Amending Chapter 5, Standards for Accessory and Specific Uses and Structures, Section 531.48.d, and dog dining in certain outdoor portions of public food establishments. This item was heard by the Planning Commission on April 12th, and they recommended to the board with a 5-0 vote to approve the text amendment. And the board also heard on 5-3 was the first reading on May 3rd, so this is the adoption public hearing.
Commissioner Whitmore?
I know you're gonna open it for public comment, but I want to make a motion to approve the recommended motion.
Second.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak on item number 7? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. We have a motion made by Commissioner Whitmore, seconded by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Whitmore?
could I respectfully ask that our media in the county get this out to the public? There's a few restaurants I've been to lately that they put a sign out. They just found out that they weren't allowed to do it. And it would be nice if our businesses in the community, if they want to take advantage of this new law, that they can apply, they can get their outdoor doggy dining permit. And I think you have to go through the state, so you have to follow the rules.
Yeah, there are requirements
Yeah.
in this legislation that you also come to the county.
Right.
All right,
Thank you.
So you have to get a
Mr. Burnett?
permit?
Yeah, let me.
You actually have to get a
Yeah, they
permit
have to get a permit
to allow
from us.
doggy dining now?
Always.
Come to the county?
It's always been that
We
way.
used to have to do the same, too.
I didn't know that.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Smith?
I take my dog to a lot of restaurants, so, really, seriously.
No.
Your dachshund?
And I'm sure he
Violated
appreciates it.
Xavier.
No, and sit outside. I've never seen a sign that I've seen some restaurants don't allow it, then I leave, but
But the businesses usually get a permit.
I didn't know that.
Ms. Tucson, since we're moving forward with this ordinance, can you, like Commissioner Benak, I was not, the restaurant need to apply for a permit, all of them, if they decide to do this?
If they decide to do it, there are, if you look at the 53148, which is the restaurant section of our additional use permit section, what they need to do, and this is all by state statute, because the state is what dictates how you do this, because it's regarding the
Public health.
public health
Right.
portion of that regulation. So they need to get administrative review, and it depends on what condition the restaurant is in. If it's a new restaurant, you would go through a different process. If it's an existing restaurant, we don't know, so we're saying, depending upon what you have to do, you submit and you follow the rules, and then you get a permit. But it is required that they have a permit, and the state also needs to be notified of which restaurants have permits.
And do they have to post that at the restaurant?
Yes,
or how
there's
would you
lots
know?
of requirements about what they have to do. They have to have, you can only gain access to the dog dining area through the outside. You can't have the animals on the inside of the structure. It has to be posted. There has to be wash-up, cleanup area for the wait staff. They're not supposed to be at tables. There's a lot of rules that they have to follow, and it's their job to read this ordinance, which is 100% based on the state legislation. The only thing I changed was the number A to be a little bit more reflective of how we would issue the permit in Manatee County.
You mentioned that Manatee County and the state issue permits, so you allowed to,
You
Can you go
get
one or
your
the other?
permit from Manatee County, and then you also submit it to the state.
once you get it from Manatee County?
Correct,
Then you go to the state,
correct.
and so it should be posted.
Yes.
and the restaurant understand what the protocol is about the entry, the law, and cleaning up and all of that?
It's in the code, so they need to read that and make sure that they abide by those things.
The only reason I don't know when the last time I've seen something posted. I mean, I just don't know, but.
Well, it hasn't been legal since 2009, but we didn't know it. We forgot. It expired.
And the reason I'm saying for sanitation reasons that the restaurant should know, yeah, it could happen, but you need to know you got to be sanitary and clean up. And I don't think
Right.
that portion, I don't know about that.
Right. Well, it's all listed in here, and so that they just need to, maybe they need to do a refresher course.
So we have a copy of that in our,
It will be part of the land development code, yes. And this ordinance listed all, it's very clear in the ordinance. It's-
how large is that?
It is section 53148,
Okay.
and that's land development code section.
What is it, 2 pages?
It's 3 pages.
Okay, may I have a copy of that page later? Not right now. Do I have it in my documents here?
It's in your.
It's part of the ordinance,
Right.
Okay, all righty.
all right?
I need to get it printed out then, okay.
Yeah.
Print it, yeah.
All right, thank you. Whoever wants to read number 8 into the record, please.
Number 8 is, agenda item number 8 is Plan Amendment 1801, Ordinance 1811, Rolf Nielsen Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2018-0014. It's a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment for a privately initiated amendment to the future land use map of the future land use element to designate specific real property from the residential 1 future land use category to the MUC AC1 mixed use community center level 1 activity center level 1 future land use classification. A total of 5 acres on the east side of Lorraine Road, approximately 1/2 mile from the intersection of State Road 70 and Lorraine Road at 5517 Lorraine Road, Bradenton, Manatee County. The Planning Commission did hear this on 5/10/18. With a 5-0 vote, they recommended approval. This is a small-scale amendment, so there is not a transmittal public hearing required.
Okay. Commissioner Benek?
I had asked this question in my briefing, and I don't know that I need a full presentation, but I don't know if staff can answer it either. When you look at the aerial photograph, it looks like this use extends off-site to the north, and whether or not, maybe they're 2 separate property owners. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't only fixing half of the problem. So perhaps the applicant can maybe give us a brief presentation that they're not involved with the property to the north, because, just want to make sure.
There was a public comment about the neighbor to the north.
If
morning,
it's all right, I
Commissioners.
would like a brief presentation by the applicant.
And I do have
So
a
would I, Madam
question.
Chair.
I do have a question for you to incorporate in your presentation. It looks like it's a flag lot.
Yeah.
So there's a long road to the parcel. Is there another road?
Excuse
on
me,
the-
excuse me, Madam Chair. Please, we have to let the applicant
Right.
Okay.
introduce
I
themselves
just
for the
wanted to
record.
ask questions for him to
would just
incorporate.
make
Well,
sure
well,
that
he's at the podium now, so we have to let him announce his
okay.
name.
Mr.
You know where
McGuire?
I'm talking.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Mr. McGuire?
Good morning. My name is Hugh McGuire. This is a legislative matter, so I assume we don't need to be sworn. I'm here today representing Rolf Nielsen. With us is our engineer, Andy Allison. And we're here to request an amendment to the comprehensive plan as has just been described to MU-C/AC-1. Mixed-use community center level 1/activity center level 1. The classification is currently Res 1. The property consists of 5 acres, and it's located, as was said, on the east side of Lorraine Road, about a 1/2 mile north of State Road 70. If you would like, and I don't know how much of a presentation you want, we'll go ahead and, can I put this on the aerial, please, and let's see if we can anybody see that? Can you zoom in on that at all? You can see the site that's marked in red. You can see State Road 70 at the bottom. Commissioner DeSabatina, you can see the proposed rangeland, the extension of rangeland goes along the southern boundary, and that is, as I understand it, I'm certainly it's not official, but it's my understanding they will start clearing that right away in the very near future. So that property will really be the access to this parcel, because what we have to do now, this is a comp plan change, then we'll have to come back and do a rezone. So when we do that, that's going to take us a period of time. Hopefully the road will be in place. We talked to DOT and, to the Transportation Department. But it is, right now, the access is by an easement, and you're correct. But, and then to answer the other question, Commissioner Benak, to the north, right now, there are some RVs stored there. The property is not zoned, okay? We have our code enforcement gentleman in the back. He's here to watch and see if I can get this done, because it is a violation right now the way it is, and he has worked with us.
As you walk out.
All right, Jeff.
So, did he leave?
He tried. Proactive.
It's in his
boy.
truck.
But anyway, we want to get this thing worked out. We've been working with him. We wanted to get this file. We'll turn right around and proceed diligently to get this thing rezoned. The problem, it's not a problem, but the reason we're here is because, as you know, many of you live in that area and are very familiar with the area and the growth in that area. And there's so many residential developments out there that do not allow RVs or boats to be stored. So he has these, and believe it or not, you say, well, there are a lot of places that do that. His referrals are coming from people that are already filled up, believe it or not. So we suggest to you that that's needed, and that just fits right in with the comprehensive plan requirements, as I understand them. And so you can see the growth in that area and what's getting ready to really happen. You can see you've got the post office, you've got all of the other things, the park that you all just purchased, Peace River, the church just to the south. And when you get into the land uses across the road are a little different than what we're asking for, but the stuff around us is exactly what we're asking for so far as future land use is concerned. Right now, Mr. Nielsen raises chickens there and has eggs, and then the RVs and the trailers, people came in and said, can we store them there? So he's been doing that. And we want to get this thing all straightened out. We want to get it back in according to code and the code requirements. And I think that you can see that the area is transitioning rather rapidly. If you go to the west, I think those are probably 5 10-acre parcels. His is a 5 acre, so if you see the way they're broken down across the road, a lot of those are for sale. People are wanting to change the use. And so the area is transitioning. It was residential, but not now. And so, again, we think that that fits right into what we're wanting to do so far as this change. The question before you is whether this map amendment is compatible with the development trends in the area and whether it is compatible with the surrounding uses and densities or intensities. That's the issue. Those are the two issues before you. We suggest that the answer to both of these questions is yes. So as reflected in the staff report, the property to the north is Res 1. On the west is Lorraine Road and some 5 and 10 acre parcels, Res 1. On our adjoining east and south sides, we find the same future land use that we're requesting here. In summary, we believe that our request is compatible with the trending uses in the area. We believe there is a need for the proposed use in the area and that the proposed amendment is in the best interest of the public. In addition, we suggest that the proposed amendment will assist in attaining the goals and the objectives of the applicable portions of the comprehensive plan. We believe that our request and the proposed amendment complies with the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan. Your staff has recommended approval of our request. The Planning Commission recommended approval of our request, and we respectfully ask you to approve our request. If you have any other questions, be glad to try to answer them. Thank you very much.
All right, it's time for questions to the applicant. Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem with your comp plan amendment, certainly with Rangeland Parkway coming through there. It makes for a very different atmosphere, land use pattern, if you will, in the area. My only question was, in looking at the aerial, looks like the guy to the north of you has the same problem, and when you do a comp plan, some 2 for 1, you don't have to pay anymore, doesn't cost you. And I just wondered if there was any discussion if they wanted to.
Yes,
because,
there has been discussion. No, they don't want to.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, we did that.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's logical, and we considered that early on.
Okay, thank
But
you.
we're never quite able to put that thing together.
Okay.
Commissioner Whitmore?
In your legal opinion, do you concur that the intensity is less than commercial node?
Yes, ma'am.
The boats, you would be storing boats and RVs?
Right.
So the intensity, in my opinion, and I want you to concur, is less because you take them and you leave them, and you come back maybe once every
That's
few
right.
months to take the boat out or
Most
the
people
RV.
that have them don't use them. So
And is he going to still
it's
be
just
allowed, when we change the use, is he still going to be allowed to keep his chickens there?
He loves to do the chickens, okay? I don't know.
We do have a law that you can have, allow chickens on your property, just so you know. I think this is a low-intensity use to me, and that's why I think it's compatible with the surrounding uses. There are so many people that have boats and RVs, and there's no place to put them. They're starting to use the storages, and the storage places are full now, too. So I think that there is a need out there because it's growing so rapidly. So, and it's been the use for how long? How long you been doing it? 2 years, yeah. So.
2 years.
Okay, I'm okay with the comp plan too.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sabatino?
Right, so it's a more passive use of the land.
Totally.
So the parcel to the north, I'm sure you're aware of, I guess it's a question for Jeff, what's going on with that parcel? Are you working with them to get them, are they in compliance or?
Well, I'm not
Can
sure
I
that
answer
that's
that for
actually
you?
part of
That's-
this.
I thought
That's
you
not
might
part
know.
of their-
He's
Wouldn't be
renting.
part of this application.
Yeah,
Right.
he
Right.
rents part of that property, but when we get this plan will now be, we'll have to do it on the 5 acres pursuant to the plan.
Oh, okay, I get it.
And the zoning, okay,
Oh, that
Okay.
clarifies.
right?
Commissioners, are you done?
Yes, thank
Commissioner
you.
Smith?
I always, regardless, I normally, boat storages are fine if they're maintained, the grass is cut, they're taken care of. But I know a lot of areas that I know, they kind of, as long as it's taken care of, as long as the grass is cut, and you're just not dumping stuff in there, and it becomes an eyesore where I can see it down the road, they can be very fruitful, but I just want to make sure that this is going to be something that the property owner is going to, take care of, and it's not just where, just drop them off and nobody's maintaining them.
Mr. Smith, we're gonna have to comply with all the codes. We gotta do fencing, we've gotta do the impervious surface, we're gonna have to do everything. This will be up to code. Right now, there are vehicles that are parked out there, and they're in a reasonable manner. I mean, they have to be. Some of these vehicles are, these motorhomes are pretty heavy, so they have to be, he doesn't just leave a bunch of stuff piled up out there. But this will be brought up to code. That's the whole thing we're trying to do.
Okay, well, certainly I hope that's what take place. I know in my district, that's the number one concern and complaints I have.
Right.
Look at all those vehicles over there, look at people just leaving vehicles, and as people may, specifically during the summers, people complain. So, okay, those are the questions that I have, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Benak?
Yeah, I would just like staff, when they do their presentation, to focus on that this is a comprehensive plan amendment to mixed use, community/activity center level 1. Any of the uses that would be allowed in that comprehensive plan amendment is what I believe we should be thinking about at this stage. I appreciate that you're in code enforcement and are following the steps to get there, but I think we're getting a little off track by focusing, quite frankly, on storage. We got a comp plan amendment, but I would like staff to present that because I'm not staff, and you are, so you need to tell us what this application is.
Well, point of order, you not had asked for a full presentation, so we
That's
are
where I
now.
am asking
so
for
we are
it.
now.
Correct. Thank you for that point of order. I am clarifying that I am asking staff to
Okay.
do a presentation on what the application is before us.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. I am Stephanie Moreland, and this is a legislative matter, and I don't have to be sworn. I did not prepare a presentation for you, but I would like to say that this site will have to come back for a rezone. I do agree with what the applicant said. It would have to come back for a rezone and final site plans. It would have to be brought up to code in a manner that complies with the land development code. This type of use can be considered as commercial retail because they offer a service to the community. So we believe that it meets the criteria to be changed, the future land use to be changed from our Res 1 to MUC. And this is the first process necessary for us to move forward with the rezone and final site plan. I hope that answers your question.
May I
Commissioner
add a little
Burnett?
bit? I think that if you, during the comprehensive plan amendment process, as you read the staff report, everything is assumed to be built to the most intense development allowed. So the analysis is based on an FAR, floor area ratio of 1 instead of a 0.23. It's based on the density of, I can't remember right now, 9. It's greater than the Res 1 is. So all of the analysis that has been done as part of the plan amendment is recognizing that. But when you look at the mapping that currently exists, this is a logical extension of the MUC1. And with Rangeland Parkway coming through, it will also be a benefit to that. You know, it's not going to stay as an A or A1 zoning district in the future.
All right, questions for the staff? Commissioner Benak?
Thank you for answering that, because that was my concern, you know, that we were, and I get it, in a code enforcement case, we tend to focus on that.
Right.
But this is a comp plan amendment, and quite frankly, Carol, you had said that this was a less intensive use. It's not. It's going from Res 1 to mixed use, community residential, allows more residential, allows more commercial than the current comprehensive plan does. Current comprehensive plan is Res 1.
The use.
But that's why I said exactly, well, we don't know the use. This use could be anything. But that's why I said, in my briefing, I looked at this and I said, wow, that's a pretty big change. But it's adjacent to rangeland parkland. It is surrounded on 2 sides.
Yes.
To me, it is totally compatible, a logical transition of the use, but I think, well, I'll just stop there.
Commissioner Whitmore?
No, I don't have a button.
Okay. All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on item number 8? So state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Richard Bedford, Vice President of Schrader Manatee Ranch. We completely support this action. We don't have a problem with it. Maybe I can clarify some things. Yes, Rangeland is under construction now. Probably by the end of this year or halfway into next year, it'll be done. And part of that's going to cause that intersection right here. So we're okay with this completely. This piece right here is part of a land exchange agreement with the school district for a new high school there. So that's moving along.
Good.
This piece here is presently under construction by D.R. Horton with the single-family project. This area in there has also been put together, and I'm not sure if D.R. has purchased that or not, but they're already clearing that also for single-family. There's a Publix coming here, which after we finish the one on University and Lorraine, which will open in September, then Publix has said that they'll start that one next. So, and we know that when it comes time to rezone, we'll be here to talk about buffers and setbacks and landscaping, all those kind of things. Also to the east, this whole area will be, Lennar is coming in there, and that's kind of a pending application, so I'll leave that alone. But so this SMR supports this.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? See no one come forward, we'll close public comment. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner DeSabatino, seconded by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, Mark, if you want to read number 9 in, please?
I will. This is agenda item number 9, which is Plan Amendment 1802, Ordinance 1817, Ecoplexes Alternative Energy Generation Facility. Again, this is a legislative matter. An ordinance for a privately initiated text amendment by Ecoplexes, Inc. to amend element number 1, definitions, to add specific definitions for alternative energy generation facility, low-temperature thermal power, photovoltaic, PV, solar power, solar array, and solar field, utility use, and heavy utility use. To amend element 2, future land use, to revise policy 2.1.1.5 to encourage the development and use of renewable energy resources, and to amend element 3, conservation, to add goal 3.5, which is to promote the development and use of alternative energy generation facilities, and objective 3.5.1 is alternative generation facilities. This went to the Planning Commission on March 8th, and they recommended that the board transmit, which the board did on April 5th. Was transmitted to the state for review. There were no agency comments received from any of the state agency, so this would be for adoption today. And to let you know, there's also a companion Land Development Code text amendment, which is scheduled to go to the Planning Commission next week, and the Board of County Commissioners on August 2nd and August 23rd.
Commissioner Benak.
Well, there were no substantive comments, I guess, but I do love the fact that DOT commended the county for including sustainable resource planning in your comprehensive plan and land development code. So if we get a shout out from DOT, I think we should say it.
That's right.
Okay, next time I'll shout out.
That
I'll
was
do
a
the
weird-
shout out.
It was kind of a weird letter. Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on this item?
And the applicant's representative is here if you have any questions.
See no one come forward, we'll close public comment. There's nobody on the board, so what's the pleasure of the board?
I move to approve the recommended motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner Whitmore, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative, whoever you are.
Oh,
Oh, there you are.
Thanks for spending your money.
Yeah. Thank you for
Uh,
spending your money.
Number 10 has been continued. Do we need to read that into the?
Yes, Madam Chair, we need to open the public hearing to allow anyone to speak, and
We
then
need to swear.
Well, we'll swear if somebody wants to
make
speak.
the
If
motion.
not, then we'll swear before the next one. Does anyone, go ahead and read it under public comment, please?
Yes, ma'am. This is item number 10, which is PDI 1722P, Calcutta Marine, and it's a quasi-judicial, and the applicant has requested that it be continued to August 2nd, and there is a revised memo in your package, your update memo package.
Okay, does anyone in the public wish to speak on the continuation? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close. Do we need to actually vote on that, Sarah?
yes, you need, here's the proposed motion would be, I move to continue the public hearing for PDI 1722P to August 2nd, 2018, 9:00 a.m., where soon thereafter may be heard at the Manatee County Government Administrative Building, first floor chambers.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner DeSabatino?
I do have a question. So does the staff need to be sworn in before the question?
Yes.
We've continued it.
No, but I
But
just
she has
have
a question. So anyone that, anyone that's going to speak anytime today, if you could please stand and hold up your right hand? Not just on this one, but anything.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you are about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
And
Some
since we're-
clarifications, the motion continue passed, so you get to lay a question on the table. It can't be answered today because we've already got the matter closed.
Right.
No, I have a question for the future.
Okay.
Okay, but they cannot answer it
Can't
today, is
answer.
what she's
but-
saying.
Okay.
Okay.
We
So,
can answer
but
at
I'm,
the next meeting.
the question is, on the public comment from James Reed, the adjacent property owner of 3 parcels, can we look into his objections there? He's alleging there's illegal uses of the property. with pollution, air and well pollution, so can we look into that? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Number 11, we'll read it into it, then we'll ask all about ex parte. So, Margaret?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 11 is PDR 1728ZP SMR Northeast LLC, Solera at Lakewood Ranch. This is a quasi-judicial matter. It's a rezone of approximately 278.41 acres located approximately 1.3 miles north of State Road 70, approximately 2 miles south of State Road 64, and 1.5 miles east of Lorraine at 5010 Uline Road, Bradenton, from AWP EST General Agriculture Watershed Protection Evers Special Treatment Overlay District to the PDR WPE ST Plan Development Residential Watershed Protection Evers Special Treatment Overlay Districts, zoning district, and a preliminary site plan for 675 lots for single-family residential detached uses. There is an add-on that Rosina will discuss, an update on an item that Rosina needs to talk to you about.
Good morning, Rosina Lider by the staff, and I have been sworn. I'm going to enter into the records an update memo to change sheet C101 and the page number 24 of the staff report only to mark the correct lot dimensions that in the sketch is 120, but in reality the minimum lot dimension is 110 in length.
Okay, before we get started, does anyone have any ex parte communication they need to declare?
Can we read that? Because it's confusing.
She's sending it down. Anyone have
It's
any?
only in the sheet number C101, the lot dimension, the sketch is marked like 120. And the minimum lot size is 110, and it's in the table, and it's only to correct that in the staff report and in the preliminary site plan.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any ex parte communication they need to declare? No. All right. We want the applicant to, we need y'all request a presentation?
Is it is it on request?
Yes, it's presentations upon request.
All right.
Want one?
Upon request, anybody?
I read it all.
No.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on item number 11?
Can I just have a question? I pushed my button.
Oh, I'm sorry. I looked and I didn't see it.
Okay.
Public, if you wanted to speak, sit, please. Commissioner Benak.
I don't think the applicant has any problem with this change, but sometimes it's scary when you get, okay.
All right.
When you get something handed to you at the meeting, you're like, whoa.
Okay, applicant seems fine. So anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Not. Public comment is closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the recommended motion?
Second.
All right, all those in favor,
With the addition.
With the addition.
Correction.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner DeSabatino, seconded by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, as a just housekeeping measure, if we go back to item 10, Calcutta Marine, the clerk pointed out to me that you made the motion, but you didn't vote on it.
Did we not vote on it?
Really?
Nope, it was
'cause Robin
Commissioner Whitmore moved it, Commissioner Benak seconded it, and then Commissioner DeSabatino had her question, and you never did say all in favor.
All right. Going back to the motion we had on the floor by Commissioner Whitmore, seconded by, who was it, Q?
It was Commissioner Whitmore and Commissioner Benak.
And Commissioner Benak for continuing item number 10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Q.
Thank you.
Good catch.
All right, we're on number 12.
Did we vote? I'm sorry. Did
We
vote
voted
on
on
the last one?
Voted on 11. And before we get started on number 12, let's read it in, and then I'll ask you ex parte. Go ahead, Margaret.
Item number 12 is Z 1801 Willis Rezone. It's a quasi-judicial hearing. It's the rezone of an approximately 5-acre site located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Erie Road and Erie Lane at 4906 Erie Road, Parish, Manatee County, from A, general agriculture to the A1 suburban agriculture, one dwelling unit to the acre zoning district. And the Planning Commission did hear this item at their May 10th meeting and recommended 5-0 for the board to approve the change.
Okay, anybody have any ex parte communication they need to declare? All right. Commissioner Benak?
I don't need a presentation, but I just want to ask a question because of the shape of this property and the fact that it's less than 5 acres and we're rezoning it to A1. I want to ask, and I think I'll ask the applicant the intent first, if it's just to split it once, because I think if you split it more than once, you might have to go through subdivision and create a new road, but I want to make sure we're not creating a bunch of little lots, not little, a bunch of lots that take access off of Erie Road, because that is a thoroughfare, so that would be my concern.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, board, and staff. My name is Leo Mills, and I have been sworn. My clients, who I normally ask to be with me, are unavailable today. One's in assisted living, the other's in rehab for a broken hip. So normally they would be here, but I apologize. The intent here is to create one additional lot. Now, I don't know if we can really hang our hat on intent because we had that discussion a little earlier about what we're doing. We're rezoning, and it could end up being 4 or 5 lots or more if we went to a more intense rezone. It's a good piece of property for that, but they need, they have a son-in-law who wants to build a house right next to them, and that's the whole purpose of us being here, so they can look over them in their senior years here.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, Mr. Mills, you say the applicants are not here.
Hospital?
When you say rehab and elderly care facility, this is something that they applied for, or did the relative apply for this? Who's asking for this?
The rezone?
Yes.
When, prior to making the application, they assigned me as their agent. We made the application. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Willis went into a senior living facility, and just recently, Miss Willis had a fall.
I bet.
So she will be going back home, if I understand correctly.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, she's up and walking now and doing quite well, and her son-in-law, who I've been really working with on this, is employed, and he couldn't make it today. So that's pretty much it.
You're the agent.
Yeah,
I am the agent, yes.
Folks, you can look at me all you want. I'm just trying to make sure, because we had a discussion yesterday and about elderly, and I'm just making sure that this is what's supposed to move forward and that they're the one that is pushing this to move forward, and they're not here because guardian. I'm protecting me as a Christian, not you. That this is something that they want to do because you say they're not here, and then you mentioned something about a son-in-law. I just want to make sure we're doing what they want us to do, not questioning you, Mr. Mills.
That's what they've asked me to represent them for, yes, sir.
And Mr. Smith, I would like to point out, as part of our application package, it is required that the owner of the property sign an affidavit if they are not going to be their own representative, and they have done that. And they've also, in your package, is also a zoning disclosure affidavit stating their ownership interest and what it is, and that is signed by Mrs. Willis.
Okay, I want the record protected, and if she personally signed that,
It's right here.
Yeah, I know, hey. My conversation yesterday, I know 15 people could be in violation right now. I'm just saying.
Leo Mills is.
I've been knowing
Up
Leo
and up.
Mills longer than you think, Ms. Whitmer. I don't need your assistance on this. I'm
Well,
not
then-
questioning him. I stated that, and please let me talk. I'm a grown man. Thank you.
All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on item number?
You're a nurse and RN. You should
12.
understand why I'm asking those questions.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Commissioner Benak?
I wanted to ask
So we're
staff.
going to close public comment, so then now Commissioner Benak.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to ask staff if they had any presentation, but you didn't. So I wanted to ask staff a question. And the reason I ask this, because I live on a very busy thoroughfare road. My access to my subdivision is offset because it was done back in the day, like these are a lot of ag, there's a lot of ag property. It makes it almost impossible to get out. And you can't have any intersection because we're offset. And that's why I brought up my concern here. If this were to be a subdivision, which would mean more than one split, as Leo knows the rules very well, then they would have to add, I believe, a road, and that would be a concern. And I want to ask staff that if they were to go through a subdivision, would you look at that access to make sure you don't have alignment problems with the subdivision across the street? Because if you have an just slightly offset, and you can never have an intersection, it can create many difficulties for the people to get out of that subdivision on either side. It's something that I hope we look at if and when there's a subdivision, even on these smaller lots.
Good morning. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning Division Manager, and I have been sworn. Whether it's the single unit or multiple units, we'd like them to align their driveways as best they can with the subdivisions or individual lots across the street. I don't know exactly how they propose to split this lot and provide access to the two child lots, but there are, towards the south end of this property, 3 different access points, one of which presumably they would try and align with when they create their own driveway, but we do want those kinds of things to happen to avoid the offsets you're talking about.
Yeah. And my question was, I mean, obviously if they just split it once, there's no subdivision requirement. You could split a lot once, without having to go through subdivision. It's the way I understand it, unless the law's changed. I'm looking at Leo because he probably knows this law way better than I do.
Yeah. Leo Mills again, and our first split would require, under the current statute, a certified lot split. Certified lot splits are a little different animal than subdivisions. Our intent is to create a home site to the south of the existing home site, take an easement over the existing driveway. So we only have one driveway coming out on Erie Road because of the problem that you're discussing right there. It's not easy getting out there, so let's make it as minimal impact as we can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we've done public comment, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve, recommended motion.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion by Commissioner DeSabatino, a seconded by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Or, excuse me, anybody opposed? Sorry about that. All right, chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. All right, the 13 is time certain at 1:30, so why don't we go to Commissioner comments?
Wow. 10 o'clock.
Because I don't think we can start, correct?
No.
Correct.
Okay.
I just have under land use, because it's commissioner comments.
Commissioner comments under
Right.
Commissioner Whitmore?
I have 2 land use requests, and I would like I know we're going to do the comp plan today, and I've talked to staff about this quite a few times. When I bring this up, I get, but, I really want to push working outside the box. We're redoing our comp plan. And we have the authority and the powers to do what we want or we can in the Land Development Code. But I really want to push thinking outside the box to allow tiny homes or tiny lots. And I also brought up this 3D housing. There's another community, and I showed actually everybody here at the table, except Clark wasn't there, went on the internet and looked at this. And this is a trend for workforce and affordable housing and others that want to not spend all their money on a house and, and enjoy what money they can and keep it in their pockets for affordable housing for anybody. And I would respectfully request that this is the time when we're doing our land development code in the future to allow this type of thing. I get told, well, there's a lot of property that we own that's corner lots or that we have surplus. It's small, we can't build a house. And I go, what about a tiny lot? Well, what about all the other houses in the area? Or, there's not let's try to see if we can do it. And I'm seeing that in some of their communities. So I would respectfully request that we do try to be a little bit forward ahead. We're the first platinum green community in the state of Florida. Let's try to we really need a workforce in affordable housing in Manatee County. And this may be an option if we as a board set policy to really push for you all to think about it. If there's an obstacle, let's all roll our sleeves up and figure out what we can do. And I really think that there's people that would really take advantage of this. So that's what I would ask.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, any comment?
None.
Commissioner Benak?
Yeah, and as long as we're talking about land development code changes, which I've been talking to staff quite a bit about, just trying to figure out the timing, you know, that we hopefully will see some of the non-controversial land development code changes come forward quickly. As you know, we have a couple churches that are very anxious to get some signs, electronic signs. There's a situation on 26th Street right now, St. Joe's. Walter Miller started this request to me a year ago.
Really?
And I think you all know Walter Miller. You know, when he talks to me, he says, before he dies, and it always gets me, you know. He wants to be able to institute a movable, or whatever we call them, electronic signs now for his church. And he's frustrated because he sees them going in all around him because they're in the city and they don't have a prohibition. But we do have a prohibition on 26, whatever kind of a thoroughfare it is, whatever zoning they have. I'm not even sure what it is that has created the prohibition. And of course, churches need to, you know, they got it tough enough trying to be a church, you know, and keep your church going. And he really, really wants this sign. His board really wants it. And he calls me quite regularly. And we thought we were going to get the code amendment, the sign amendment through. And we all know that got derailed. And, you know, I'm not saying for bad reasons. It was, some of it's very complicated. But if we can get a code amendment done, you know, I always talk about the code amendment that instituted height limitations in this county was done in 1 month's time. I remember because I was the applicant for a building that was requesting a certain height, and the county at that time wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. So in 1 month's time, they wrote a code amendment to institute a 35-foot height limit. Well, if you can do that in 1 month's time, I hope we can get a code amendment for the non-controversial sign things through as quickly as possible. So I'm just appealing to staff. I'm appealing to my board members for help in support of that, so that, you know, our churches, Woodlawn Baptist also needs this, interestingly enough. So I'm hoping that we can, you know, I know our staff is overworked and underpaid. I get it. I know we've got a lot going on, and we've been pursuing these comp plans and code amendments for a long time, but somehow we're going to have to find somebody that can push this through in a relatively short time. So I'm just appealing to staff and you all to be aware of that. I'm not asking for any motion, but I just am making it.
Madam Chair, may I speak here? The sign ordinance is drafted. It's ready.
It's just we keep arguing.
We had a workshop, a number of issues came up, so we meet with a consultant to fine tune further, and it has to go to hearing because the existing sign ordinance is constitutional issues, as you know. So it will be moving forward, I believe.
Yes, but
there's snail's pace and
my understanding is that there's been a recommendation to maybe pull the non-controversial portions of the sign ordinance out and let them go faster. Since you remember, I mean, I'm not blaming staff on that. I mean, that came before the board, and the board said, if you remember, I mean, that many of those.
Well, we're in process of meeting with John Barnard and the consultant next week to go over this and work out an approach. But because our existing sign regulations are not legally enforceable, we have to move forward with this. It's more than just one. So it will be coming forward to you. If I had to bring it forward myself, it's coming forward to you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, good. And I want to make sure that these signs for the movable signs are on that part that has to come forward and will come forward as quickly as possible. Those other things that might be more discretionary, that might need a little bit more, whatever it is, that those get left. Not the more controversial stuff, maybe that comes separately. That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, dealing with the what Commissioner Whitmore has just stated about the tiny houses, I thought we were still kind of working on the tiny houses. I knew that we've been discussing that, and some from the general public have been talking about tiny houses. Is my understanding we have not looked into including tiny houses into what we're doing. Is that my understanding? Certain areas of the community would love to have tiny houses. In some areas, we'll frown upon having tiny houses. So, but it should be some type of option where these can be considered. Certainly, we're not drowning in affordable houses around here, and so that may be the only way some can get housing. So, is that's what's going on? I'm hearing that it may not even be included. Is that correct, or are we still discussing it, or somebody's made a decision not to do it?
I am not certain of the protocol here, if I'm supposed to respond or not. I
Someone's
certainly can.
Someone's supposed to.
Okay, I didn't know.
Margaret, when have you ever been shy? Go for it.
Well, I try to follow the rules, you know. All right.
This is commissioner comments. As far as I know, we don't really have rules.
Oh, you don't have rules? Okay.
Just
All
commissioner
right.
comments.
I didn't know if staff had rules.
So go ahead.
That's okay. So, yes, I mean, as we have taught to y'all, the very first step is what we're doing this afternoon, to increase our density so that we can have the ability to provide more affordable homes. We are also looking at decreasing our lot sizes as part of the Land Development Code. Right now, our minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet. That is what we have as a standard zoning lot, our smallest standard zoning lot. We are decreasing the lot sizes to 4,000 and 5,000 square feet. So that's a significant reduction. I know that that may not address everyone's desire to have a small lot. So perhaps at that point, they will still need to rezone to plan development to achieve a smaller lot.
No.
Not an ideal situation, but we have been working on the Land Development Code for over a year, and we would like to keep the process moving forward. And then regarding house sizes, currently our Land Development Code requires minimum unit sizes. We are proposing to take those out. There will not be minimum sizes associated with the standard zoning districts any longer. So we are trying to achieve that. We are also in the process of working on accessory dwelling units. Ryan and I are working on that right now, and we will be bringing that forward as a separate item so that you can see it. And I think we've made a lot of progress there. We're trying to make it as simple as possible, not put a lot of regulations, not put a lot of conditions on it, so that if people have the property size, and he's working on graphics, so you'll be able to visually see what it would look like if an accessory dwelling unit were located on where an existing home is. And I think it will help you to be able to visualize that, and for the public to visualize it, because I think people are oftentimes concerned about the accessory dwelling unit, and sometimes we try to put in our regulations the things that people just out of common courtesy to a neighbor should accomplish, and you can't legislate that. So if code enforcement issues come because of it, that comes. But, what we're trying to do is not put, chains on people to not be able to let them do the things that maybe we need to do to get more affordable housing. But are we going to be able to address every affordability issue in the Land Development Code right now? No, but we are trying to make the steps. And for Manatee County, these are pretty huge steps. The densities that you are proposing are not minor for Manatee County. In the past, you wanted to see every project do plan development that had more than one dwelling unit to the acre. This is a huge step. These are huge steps that we are making, and we'd like to see how it plays out, in the public. But we are committed in the section that I'm working in, Ryan, Lisa, and I, to try to be responsive to changes that need to be made to the Land Development Code. Again, this is, we started the Land Development Code process, in 2011, and it got off the rails because it was too much to handle. And and I know that in some of the commission briefings we talked about it. We hope that as we're working through this process, and it's complicated, it's much more complicated the Land Development Code is than the comprehensive plan, that if things are not understood or you don't like it, tell us that. Maybe we will remove that and work on it more, but don't throw, the baby out with the bathwater, because we have a lot of things in the proposed code that I believe will help with the affordability. and our affordability staff, we've been working closely with a bunch of different agencies to try to make these things happen.
Commissioner, are you, do I have another question? Huh? There's,
I
it's,
would address this.
all kind of people have
I was still
questions.
talking.
Okay.
He was the one that asked it.
We all wanna-
Thank you, he's before me.
And I
Yes, he
understand.
was the one that asked a question.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not foreseeing 20 acres of tiny houses. But, you mentioned 2011, the process is slow. And so whatever we don't get in now, it may not be during my lifetime when we do another one. And so I'm concerned about that. And my other question is dealing with Commissioner Benak, dealing with electronic signs.
Can we answer your question with, though, we all want to comment on your tiny house thing? And then he still has the floor, though.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Whitmore?
What Charles is saying, and I understand, and I actually was 3 hours Sunday going through this, and you know that, and it was very good, because I actually like this kind of stuff. I did it in my other city. What I don't want is what you just said, and if there's a way, I know the comp plan's different. This is all land development stuff. So I'm not going to throw the water out, because I want this other stuff to pass today.
Keep the baby.
But I don't think that if I want to build a tiny house, I want a tiny house. I don't care. I mean, if it's I can afford it. I mean, there are people that want it. Jean Palin, we all know, she just moved to North Carolina, moved into one. I saw the video of it, one. But what I'm saying, if you go to planned development, nobody can afford it. No. And we all have talked about that. We all know that. That's not.
Well, there's two things here. One is lot size, and one is the size of your home.
Right.
Right now, we restrict the size of your home. You are required to have a certain minimum size. So we have changed that. I don't know if we can create new zone. I know it takes a lot of thought to come up with lot sizes that fit your comprehensive plan, right, and then how you do that. I think sometimes people have to look at, all of these things. We're not going to make changes in affordability on large projects. It's going to be infill, existing vacant lots where people can come in and build. And now with no restriction on the size of home that you can put into that residential zoning district, you're going to make the change that way. All of these things are incremental. All of the readings that all of us have done, points to it's small steps. Nothing happens overnight. And you go in there and you make a change in a neighborhood, then the neighbor wants to change, and it just keeps building on that. So we have there are vacant lots within existing neighborhoods where these, I really don't like the term tiny house because small, thank you.
But they are tiny, the ones I'm talking about.
Well, but small, they're not on those trailer things.
No.
That's what I'm talking. That's the concept that goes into my head. So small houses, it's like there's the ability for people to build what they want, not necessarily what's dictated by a code. So
but all your comp plan would have to say, and I'm sure Betsy's next, she'll weigh it in, and you all, this is your world. Your comp plan would just say that it's not affordable. Small houses trending would not have to go before planned development. That's how the comp plan would say, and then LDC does everything else, correct?
Doesn't have to be in the comp plan.
It doesn't have to be in the comp plan because residential is addressed in those things. But what has to happen is, as I said, right now, the smallest lot size that we are proposing in a standard zoning district is 4,000 square feet.
How big of a house is that?
Whatever size you want to put on it, 200 square feet.
Like...
That's what I'm saying. We are no longer adding. Right now, the way the land development code gives you a minimum lot size. It tells you what your setbacks are, and it tells you what your minimum size house has to be. We are eliminating that portion of it. So if you have a 4,000 square foot lot, or 5,000 or 6,000, whatever size lot you happen to have, you can put whatever size home that you want to put on there. There's not a restriction that says it must be 600 square feet.
In this world, in our county, because we're very, like Betsy says a million times, everybody wants to move here. It's still not an affordable empty lot. I mean, but I agree. I'm willing to make our baby steps just like with sign ordinance, and then look at this again. I'm not gonna let it go you know, I've been
I mean, I
talking
think-
about it every time we all meet.
We do. You know, and I think we're making the right steps. You have to allow the density to exist, and we are doing that. That's part of what today's comprehensive plan amendment changes are, is we are increasing those densities that are available so that, you know, what did we learn yesterday, Ryan? Affordability equals density and size. So, you know, the number of units you can get, and then the size of your unit. Do not dictate to people what size their home needs to be. And you're not going to, you know, that can happen in an HOA, in a homeowners association, but, you know, I don't think the county should have part of that. If you only want a community with 2,000 square foot houses, that you can do.
Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, and I think this is good that we're talking about the land development because we all know the process is the comp plan. Comp plan's this afternoon, we'll talk about that. And, you know, I'll talk more about that this afternoon, but the land development code is going to follow the comp plan because you've got to have the regulations to implement the comp plan changes. One of the things that I think is coming forward, and I wanted to ask Margaret about that, is clustering, which I think also might get at Commissioner Whitmore's point here, because clustering allows you to have smaller lots at the same density. And my understanding, the clustering provision is not going to require plan development, that you were going to be able to allow clustering by right, and that given certain performance standards, buffering, you know, whatever public work things have to be done when you cluster stuff. And, you know, this is not a new concept. I know Margaret's been a planner forever, like me, and
Hey.
I remember when you worked with me back at the county, way back when.
Way back when.
Your first time around. So I think that is an opportunity also to do that and to have.
There's a way.
Yeah, I think there will be a way, and, you know, we'll have to hear more about that when we get to the land development code standard, but, you know, quality of life is super important because we do have a older community that does have, you know, these kind of standard lots, so things like buffering. I'm just going to make one more appeal since we're talking land development code. I would like to prohibit people from putting a wall along a thoroughfare road unless there's landscaping on the outside of it. I don't think there's anything uglier than these walls
Because they turn
and
green.
fences that we have that are falling down along thoroughfare roads.
Is that
And
a
then the
motion?
roads get expanded, and then you have them right on top of the road, these very ugly signs and walls. And I know people want walls for
Security.
for security purposes, for noise buffering, but you shouldn't be allowed to do them without landscaping. And I know that's the land development code theoretically, but I can point you instances where
Including
development.
fences,
Yeah. where
walls and fences.
Walls and fences where developments have been
thoroughfares.
approved along Tuttle, along Talavasta in my neighborhood, and you got these
Ugly.
ugly.
Spray everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't know how they got approved, because I know those subdivisions have been approved since 1981, when our code was first adopted, so maybe the old code didn't have it, but since 91, a lot of them were built, and they don't have any landscaping, so maybe they tear the landscaping down, because it's a expense,
yeah.
maintenance expense, but somehow these HOAs should be held responsible for maintaining this landscaping, because that's a big part of our aesthetics in this community. And I know it's, you know, minor compared to a lot of things, but it's something that bugs me when I see these walls right on the roadway that are so ugly falling down. But I'm just saying that, please incorporate that in our land development code. I don't know how, but there must be ways other places do it.
Well, I do know that we require it now. You know, I don't know on these things that are after the fact, or maybe sometimes they may be private fences, you know, not even, because you know, as roads increase in width and traffic, people maybe at one time didn't have their backyard fenced, and now all of a sudden they do it. So, I mean, it is a code requirement
don't.
now that you have, if you have a wall or a fence, that in a development, that your landscaping is on the site, on the outside of that wall or fence. However, as a private citizen and I put up a fence in my backyard, the county doesn't tell me I have to have landscaping on the outside. And it could be 20 houses that have the same thing, and it looks like it's part of a development. So, you know,
maybe
without
we
knowing
add that.
exactly where they are, to
Maybe
have, you know,
Manatee
Rob
County
staff
don't
go
tell you.
look,
That would be my point. Maybe we need to add that if you're going to be building a fence or wall along a thoroughfare road, that you got to have landscaping on the outside of it, on an individual property. You know, it could help. Most of what I see are subdivisions.
Okay.
That's my bigger concern, but I certainly don't have any problem with what you brought out. I hadn't even really thought about that, but that might be a requirement. And I think they take the landscaping down because it's, you know, yeah, you're right. You got a little strip on the outside. You usually don't have a whole lot of room. But our code does say on a reverse frontage lot, which was what those are, even though they don't take access, they have frontage along a thoroughfare road, and then they take access off of an internal road, that they're supposed to do it. I think sometimes it gets missed, quite frankly.
And
I've seen places where I know it was missed, but I would hope that we have some requirement that's enforced, that they're required to maintain and keep the landscaping. Or if they decide, you know, in Whitfield, they don't allow any fences in the front yards at all. And that's, I think it's pretty cool what it looks like, and that's to maintain the character of Whitfield. So I don't think this kind of a requirement, and I'm bringing it up almost like we're in a workshop, I don't think it's too onerous to, I mean, I'm not one to add a lot of unnecessary regulations, but I can tell you that, I mean, you drive anywhere in this county or Sarasota, and you see these walls along thoroughfare roads that are falling down, or fences, and they look awful.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, that's a good point. Have you explored other areas like Sarasota, because they have a row of these smaller homes? What they did with their code and their regulations to accommodate these smaller houses. Also, when we're going forward with rezoning a community of this nature, will we still need to build in percentage of open space, community amenities, and so forth? And then along that line, there's a lot of mobile home communities, a lot of them along 41 that have kind of fallen on hard times. And like they did at 53rd and 14th Street West, well, they put up the Wawa on the corner, but there's still mobile homes behind them that are really in disarray. And not just for aesthetic reasons, but for inclement weather. Number one, they have to evacuate because they're in a mobile home. And number two, they would become like a projectile in an event. These smaller homes, container homes, whatever, have to, I believe, be on a foundation, and they have to abide by the recent code. So in those areas, now that you have the mobile homes that have to evacuate, if you build the replacement homes above base flood elevation, then they don't automatically have to vacate. So I think that's something
That's for another day,
talk
though.
about.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to the signs.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, just touching base on Commissioner Benak on the electronic signs. Trust me, it's more controversial than you think with electronic signs. I know that we discussed this thing in the city of Palmetto for a long period of time, and I believe you need a special permit to put one up today because unless they change that, because electronic signs can be seen from miles away, specifically if they're going all night long. Your local businesses will be able to put up electronic signs. You'll be able to put up dancing girls, dancing men, and they can be dancing all night long. That's one of the things we had concerns about.
Pretty sure the churches won't do that, but I can't say for positive.
I thought that until about a week ago, till I seen some on the web. It's called a cursing preacher. I've never heard of that. But that's another story. But no, I think that should be a discussion, but I can tell you that a lot of your residents, and that's one reason why McDonald's, when they rebuilt, they only tore half the building down because they wanted that sign to stay the height that it was.
Right.
And so if you tear it down, it can't be that height. So I'm just saying electronic signs, which I know a lot of churches, but a lot of businesses want them too. You remember over there on the waterfront that you have It Works Global, for example, we had the owner to put electronic sign up on that board, and we didn't know it was put up. And you can see it all the way to Braden. We had people actually calling over in Braden saying, why is that sign going all night long? And so it does happen, but thankful that we'll have meetings dealing with this, but everybody's not going to embrace that electronic sign. I can tell you that now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSabatino?
Yeah, on the line of the churches with signs, I'm kind of perplexed because there are some churches that do have signs, electric signs in the county, so I don't know why some are allowed and some aren't.
I think it has to do with the road. Honestly, I think it has to do, I think we allow electronic signs on thoroughfare roads in 26th Street where St. Joe's, but that doesn't make sense for Woodland, so I don't know what the dealio is. Sign ordinances are so complex. You really need a sign expert here, and I know Rob Wenzel is working on this, but and he has promised me that he will try to make this come forward. I've talked to John Barnott about it, but there is some minor tweaks that have to happen.
Because I know there's a lot of them on 53rd, and 63rd Avenues, East and West, and the churches came before us.
It's not.
Or the zoning, maybe. It's the zoning,
To be in a
the commercial zoning, and
zoning
churches aren't
district.
commercial. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And maybe going forward, we can tweak some regulations that they have to be dimmed at night, something like that.
I think they do have regulations for sure. I know we have regulations because Commissioner Smith's absolutely correct that when this came forward, we used to prohibit them anywhere in the county.
Right.
And then they
was
were
on
allowed with,
75.
yes, they were allowed with minimum, with, a lot of restrictions. So I think there are restrictions in place. I don't, it was never my bailiwick, so I don't know too much about sign permitting, but I know they were at one time totally prohibited in the county, and now they're allowed in places.
The first one, I know Commissioner Whitmore remembers the electric sign, someone's coming down, on 75.
We're going to learn about signs right now.
At the ice skating rink, and how they had to participate with us and indicate that if there's emergencies, they have to put messages on there and so forth.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob, do you have something?
Can I bring Rob up to date, kind of give him a little bit of help on why I brought this up? We're just because we're killing time, it's a very dangerous thing to give the county commission time to talk.
That's fine.
So we started
I was in
talking
my
about
office and I was
signs.
listening. I didn't catch the whole thing. Rob Wenzel, Building and Development Services. Changeable copy signs, in 605.4 it says, changeable copy signs shall be allowed only in future land uses ROR, MU, IL, and IH. So if you have a residential future land use category, you can't have a changeable copy
That's what
sign.
will change in the
And
future.
so that's what's wrong with the churches that
Correct.
want to do it. They're in a res future land use category.
Correct. And Woodland Baptist, there's ROR right next door to a res future land use category.
But they-
They're on State Road 70, so
Okay, got it.
Could they
That's-
apply for a special permit
not
without?
with the, and not unless
Not
we
in
change the
violation of
code.
comp
Not
plan.
Well, we can change the code.
Yeah,
Okay, thank
the
you.
code needs to be changed.
Thanks, Rob.
That kind of-
And Rob is working on a code amendment.
Yes.
That could potentially come forward with the first round of sign code amendments.
Correct.
I mean, I told Walter that. I would just want to make sure that I'm correct.
You are correct, and you told him roughly 3 months. We're hoping to get it here within 3 months.
Yes, and I told him, but this is government, so it could take longer.
That's correct.
3 months is a long time.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. One of the things, most churches in the residential area. And the people normally walk to church or they're in driving distance. You'd be amazed how many of them don't want that sign blinking after hours at night and blinking in my window. And I don't like when they blinking over there and I can see it across the street. We had all kind of concerns on that. But dealing with that there, we talked about signs and we was being careful about dealing with signs because it was election year too.
Right.
That's one thing that we kind of told staff to kind of back down a little bit on this sign ordinance because we had certain different parties want to know when we discussed sign ordinance, and we had, I don't want to name some of the rest of them, but they wanted to be here when we talked about any signs. So that's one thing we kind of yielded during this political year.
And when we were going to take this this language out of the code and with our changes, but we were requiring additional setbacks from residential properties, and we were also talking about, having some restriction on when they could run the message signs, and is it going to shut off at dark, or when the business closes, or we were coming up with that language too, so we will look at that.
Yeah, it's a certain type of light too, and this the one we had on the riverfront. You can see it for like 3 miles. And we had residents complain and say, why in the world I got to look out my window and see all of that? And I could sit in my yard. I got to see it at night. And it was just, it was coming from Braden, the residents, and it was crossing Palmetto. But we at the time didn't know how it was even put up. But it was put up some kind of way, a permit was put up. But those things were like, and I support the churches getting what they need to get. We have a little old display board that we put for advertising our church events. And I understand why the churches want it, but a lot, and even their members are going to be kind of saying, I don't know about that, because I can, especially when it get nice, that's when the complaints come in. I can't sleep, and this will be so many different things, but we need to do something, and we need to clean up that, and I support us cleaning that up. But I don't want anybody to think it's just that easy. Well, we already see it's not that easy, because every time we talk about it, and I'm one of them, and we say, well, we don't want to change that now, we don't want to change this, we don't want to confuse the people who are spending money, you got political signs, you got all of this stuff.
And there's also a way they can dim those lights down at night. Instead of the daylight, they dim them down to a certain,
Like your rearview mirror.
We'll look at that before we bring it back.
And we don't want to look like a downtown Tampa, no disrespect. I mean, you can see lights all night long down there on certain parts. Jacksonville, lights everywhere, and you just destroying, in my opinion, property value and everything else. And
right, Las Vegas.
Certain yeah, exactly. Me and Commissioner Johnson may want to visit Las Vegas, but we don't want to move it here.
Commissioner Benak?
Thank you, Rob, for come on down, and we look forward to this, and, we hope we can get her done for these folks that are anxious.
Hope to have it here in 3 months.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just wanted to ask one other thing, since we're talking about land development code changes, and this is not for Rob, this is for Margaret, and it was regards to email that we got about affordable housing, and it's about parking. So I hope we look at reducing our parking requirements, maybe on these smaller units, as Commissioner Whitmore were talking about. I hope that's something that we also get an opportunity to discuss when we're looking at our land development code changes as a way to encourage more affordable housing. If you're going to have teeny tiny homes in activity centers, which is what our new comp plan is going to allow, that we shouldn't have to have as much parking. And, that's going to encourage people to hopefully take some of the transit or do more walkable stuff. But I hope we have a discussion about that. And it's not obviously a comp plan thing. We don't need to talk about it this afternoon. We talk about the comp plan, but we do need to talk about that when we do our land development code. Sarasota County has done some things, I know, and I'm always one for borrowing what other counties have done if it works out to achieve that. So I wanted to say that while we're talking about code changes.
All right, Commissioner DeSabatino?
Oh, along those lines, which is a great topic, we just have to make sure that we provide enough parking, because a lot of times people have trucks or big vehicles, and we don't want them parking, encroaching on their neighbor and so forth and so on, and then all you see are vehicles, you don't even see the house. And so, or maybe you design it so there's an off area site where they can store their big trucks and not have them in front of the houses, something like that.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. What Commissioner DeSabatino just mentioned and Commissioner Benak, do we have an ordinance in the county about parking on the sidewalks?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, that's why I'm asking this question, because if you limit the parking
in the
front yard, that people have no choice but to park on the sidewalk. And I've seen lately in some government agencies where law enforcement shows up and give tickets. But we have our plan where you have one car parked, and they have no other place to park if you got a sidewalk, but on the sidewalk, because they can't park in the street. But then all of a sudden you got someone pulling up saying you need to move your car off the sidewalk. So when we talk about limited parking in homes, that is an issue. We can't have it both ways. Yeah. But I can tell you, it's been intensified by people wanting to issue tickets to people, and they got a second vehicle parked on their property, but it just happens to be a sidewalk there. And common sense says that you can't park anywhere else, but that don't stop someone trying to give you a ticket. And we are zoning these properties with one vehicle and no other way to park, and they have no choice. So sometimes we create a situation, and we have to look out for that too. And I agree with, and then public safety. You know, we talked about roads, the width of the road. We got emergency vehicles that can't go down certain roads.
Right. In these
Right
older
now,
mobile home parks, they can't get through.
We have fire trucks that cannot go down these roads. And so the width of the road is an issue too. God knows, I don't know what's going on in Commissioner Trace District. I mean, some of those roads, you gotta be kidding me. You have to drive 2 miles per hour and hope you don't tap your vehicle or get it stretched up. Some of them so narrow. And so these are things that we gotta
There's a
address.
school.
Okay.
And we built a school there.
Yeah, I know. With all kinds of traffic,
All
yeah.
right, we'll be back at 11:30, or 1:30, 1:30.
11:30.
1:30.